lot of explosions.
If variety is indeed the spice of life, then Split Fiction must be a bottle of fiery Tabasco sauce mixed with a hefty dose of cayenne pepper and then topped off with a generous portion of Scotch bonnet chili flakes. From its environments, its gameplay, its abilities, and even its camera angles, there was so much packed into the 3 hours that we got to play in a recent preview, and the result was an absolute hoot that kept us on our toes throughout.
Excuse me?
What developer Hazelight has essentially done here is build on everything it's done so well with its previous co-op games, A Way Out and It Takes Two, and dialed up its ambitions even further with Split Fiction.
So what's your story about?
It's science fiction.
Oh, sci-fi. Sci-fi's cool. I write fantasy.
The game kicks off by introducing Zoe and Mio, two writers looking to get published and whose dreams are seemingly answered thanks to a tech company known as Raider Publishing. There's more to this place than your average publishing house, though. For starters, both writers are asked to enter a simulation of their own stories via a machine known as, the Machine. Zoe, an eager, wide-eyed fantasy writer from the countryside, is hyped up and ready to go, but the slightly cynical, leather jacket-wearing Mio is less convinced. There's a feeling Raider's intentions aren't quite as honest as they appear on paper, and when Mio refuses to enter her own simulation, Raider's head honcho, also called Raider, won't take no for an answer. In the resulting kerfuffle, Mio gets pushed inside Zoe's simulation bubble and transported to Zoe's fantasy world.
Here?
Understandably, Zoe is a little surprised to see the sci-fi loving Mio suddenly appear in her story, and even more surprised by the strange purple glitchy void that's torn through her once cosy lodging. Before they have time to question it, though, both of them get pulled into a dusty sci-fi world full of metal structures and warring crafts, a stark contrast to the rural wooden beams and roaring hearth of Zoe's world.
My story.
And so begins their quest to resolve this little mix-up, and this is where the fun truly begins.
So you have no clue where that glitch might be?
All I know is that we're in my story.
You had to fall into my simulation, didn't you?
Let's just focus on getting out of here.
In this opening section, Split Fiction teaches you all of its platforming basics. Double jumping, wall running, dashing to avoid getting blasted by incoming projectiles, shimmying up poles, grappling to cross chasms, and of course, much like It Takes Two and A Way Out before it, the importance of doing all of this cooperatively. For example, as Mio used a switch to turn off a rather ominous shield-like laser wall, Zoe was able to grapple to a safe ledge before returning the favour on the other side. Minutes later, coordinating key turns on a console pad allowed them to commandeer a ship, and then, in yet another craft, Zoe had to shoot down advancing enemy ships while Mio piloted them both to relative safety and another glitch portal.
Why are we flying towards the storm? We don't have a choice. I rode it this way. Oh, well, that's just splendid. I hit it! I hit it! Shoot them down! I got one!
All of this happened in just the first 15 minutes, and yes, while it was a tutorial, it did an excellent job of showing us the ropes without ever feeling boring. Further to that, every single story level we played through felt wonderfully creative. From the more combat-focused sci-fi sections to the puzzle-leaning fantasy sections, everything felt original and unique, and like something we'd never seen before. Far from rehashing old, well-worn fantasy and sci-fi tropes, it felt here like Hazelight kept the surprises coming at all times.
Run! Definitely run!
For instance, over the course of 3 hours, we got to play as a cyber ninja with a gravity whip, which was very handy for pulling enemies off ledges like a futuristic Indiana Jones. We ran away from a massive orb-shaped parking attendant boss who thought throwing cars and firing lasers at us was fair punishment for some unpaid parking tickets.
I'm throwing you under the bus.
And we were turned into metallic Zorb-like balls, which could emit a magnetic aura that allowed us to roll up walls. Elsewhere, there were gravity pads that allowed Mio to run across the ceiling, and at one point we even felt like we were in Tron as we threw pool toys, yes, pool toys, at airborne vehicles, all while riding on the back of a motorbike.
Motion sickness is kicking in! Don't throw up on me! OMG!
Another time, we took on the form of a ball in a massive pinball-inspired level, while our co-op partner operated many levers to launch us up chutes and, on occasion, into the abyss. The highlight of the main sci-fi portions for us, though, was a section from a level called Final Level. Here, both Mio and Zoe had blaster guns as well as shield buster grenades, but they were colour-coded to only damage certain enemies and items. Zoe was on blue duty, while Mio was all about the red guys, though there are also enemies in the mix who could be shot by both players. The result was effectively one big futuristic side-scrolling experience with shades of both Portal and Metroid. We felt like Samus Aran diving through portals to reach other areas within the level before we eventually faced off against a gigantic robotic boss known as the Overseer, who tried to eviscerate us with lasers in various forms. Meanwhile, over on the fantasy side of things, we gambled along on the back of a dragon which had the ability to roll up into a tight ball to push heavy objects, essentially like a Goron from The Legend of Zelda. We shapeshifted into a tiny fairy who could chain jump through a luscious woodland glade, as well as a towering ant-like tree creature which could extend its arms to grab onto far-off edges, and it was all suitably enchanting.
Got the hang of it!
As a whole, the fantasy levels we played were way more puzzle-centric than the fast and frantic action sequences found in the previous sci-fi sections, but we're happy to report that they were no less engaging for their more cerebral objectives and settings. For example, in one level known as Rise of the Dragon Realm, the two authors had to unlock Magical Gate by using a combination of force and a dragon's acidic breath to reawaken spirits within a temple. This took a lot of planning with our co-op partner, as we had to use our dragons to climb up grassy cliffsides, create ethereal platforms for the other to scramble across, and manipulate a series of golden balls down temporary and really rather rickety chutes. Aside from Split Fiction's already packed main story, there are also optional side stories which can be found tucked within the narrative as small portals that transport you away from the core game. These are a big evolution on It Takes Two's minigames, as rather than being a small side attraction, these stories are more like bite-sized levels in their own right. During the preview, we played through 2 of these side stories. The first was based on a story Zoe had written when she was younger. It was set on a farm, and the best thing about it was how it recast each author as a super pig in the story, rather than keeping them in their more familiar human forms. In the bodies of these new porky pals, Zoe and Mio had to make their way through the farmyard area and find apples to feed a number of hungry doors. Of course, cooperative platforming was essential here once again, with Zoe's pig able to extend into a giant spring which allowed her to jump higher, while Mio's pig was able to expel a large amount of gas to propel her through the air like a very windy set of bellows. This fantastically farty side story ultimately ended in traditional, darkly funny haze-like fashion, with shades of that elephant scene from It Takes Two, which means that this story is definitely not going to be one for vegetarians.
Yeah, go slide.
Yep, here we go. What the hell, Zoe? What? Oh God! I know! Let's just end this. Well, no backing down now. Let's grill ourselves.
The second side story was a Mio number known as Slopes of War, and it saw the 2 authors competing for the highest score by performing jumps and tricks while snowboarding down the side of a mountain. Oh, and there was also the small detail of a battle going on around them as well, so think of this basically like a futuristic SSX with guns.
This is about to get real. Read it. Get ready, Zoe. Reach for the sky. Okay. High five. Woohoo!
With so much to see and do in this preview, we have high hopes for the full release of Split Fiction, and we'd be very surprised if it felt monotonous or repetitive in any way. Even though each level resides in clear science fiction and fantasy territories, each new portal took us to places full of unexpected twists and turns thanks to the diverse environments and fun mix of abilities, and the fact that you could replay the whole game as the other character and experience a whole different side of gameplay means it should have some great longevity too. One point worth quickly mentioning though is that Split Fiction is noticeably more difficult than It Takes Two. There were more than a few moments when timing and coordination were paramount, and it was sometimes quite fiddly to keep an eye on everything going on and who was doing what. On the plus side though, Split Fiction seems pretty generous with its checkpoints, so it was never an arduous slog to get back to the task at hand. What's more, the steeper difficulty curve just made the end results that much more satisfying to experience. Ultimately, even after spending such a short time with it, it's clear that Split Fiction is shaping up to be something special. At a time when it can often be hard to get a game to stand out from the crowd, especially when it comes to something new and unfamiliar, we have no doubt that this one will do just that. Split Fiction is creative, funny, clever, and we really just can't wait to play more. And you'll be able to watch us do exactly that here on Eurogamer when Split Fiction releases on the 6th of March. So make sure to like and subscribe, but preferably both, and Jim, Zoe and I will see you on a Split Fiction livestream or two sometime in early March. Goodbye.
Ooh, I look delish.
Hey, wait, no.